The UK is expected to avoid a recession this year, the International Monetary Fund has said, after it has changed course and sharply upgraded its growth forecast. The IMF now expects the UK economy to grow by 0.4% in 2023, whereas last month it forecast that the economy would contract by 0.3%. Growth has said to be helped by resilient demand and falling energy prices, but the IMF said inflation remains stubbornly high and that interest rates will need to remain in place if it is to be brought down. The IMF's managing director said the upgraded growth figure had been sparked by falling energy prices, which are easing concerns over Brexit and improved financial stability. She also said that the government had taken decisive and responsible steps in recent months, but said now is not the time to look at cutting taxes, warning that at the moment neither is affordable nor is it desirable. The IMF report noted that the risks for the UK economy were considerable, with the greatest danger coming from larger than expected persistence in price and wage setting, which could keep inflation higher for longer. The IMF also said that the UK must address the record numbers of people not working, many of whom have long-term illnesses. Chancellor Jeremy Hunt said the report credits our action to restore stability and tame inflation. Jeremy states that if we stick to the plan, the IMF confirmed that our long-term growth prospects are stronger than in Germany, France and Italy. Pat McFadden, Labour's Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury, said the report revealed the fragility of the UK economy, highlighting the slowdown in economic activities since last year and stubbornly high prices. The IMF said faster than usual pay growth and global supply chains returning to normal after the pandemic had also contributed to its growth upgrade. However, it noted that the outlook for growth remains subdued. The IMF forecasts that the UK economy will grow by 1% in 2024, rising to 2% in 2025 and 2026. It also predicts that inflation will not return to the Bank of England's target of 2% until mid-2025, which is later than it had previously forecasted. Further monetary tightening will likely be needed and interest rates may have to remain high for longer to bring down inflation more certainly. With this IMF health check on the UK's economic recovery, Jeremy Hunt gets some ammo in his battles with the opposition inside and outside his party. The UK this year is no longer bottom of the G7 or G20 league tables. The IMF also went out of its way to praise the progress made by the UK, the budget, and the response to the recent banking pressures as well as the Prime Minister's Northern Ireland Brexit deal. The result is a punchy upgrade within just a few weeks from decline of 0.3% to growth of 0.4%. Just to be clear, this is closer to zero than normal growth and definitely something not to celebrate about. But it does also significantly exceed the worst recessionary forecast from around the time of the mini-budget and the seemingly never-ending series of global crises. The IMF also helped the Chancellor in his battles with the right of the party over both Brexit and tax cuts. The Windsor framework has boosted investment confidence, it said, and the time and place for changes to tax and spend policy had not yet come. But the IMF also deployed a new phrase warning against premature celebration on inflation. What is most concerning is food prices. Even with energy prices trimming down, staying as high as it is, it does mean that the interest rates will have to remain higher for longer. The discussion around interest rates has somewhat shifted from how high to for how long. Expectations that interest rates could be expected to fall within a year may be off the mark. Sticky inflation, and especially food price inflation, is the enduring concern. The IMF works to stabilize the global economy, and one of its key roles is to act as an early economic warning system. Last year, the IMF openly criticized the short-lived plans by the UK government, then led by Liz Truss, for its tax cuts. It said that the measures, which were unveiled in the famous September mini-budget but quickly scrapped, were likely to fuel the cost of living crisis. One of the criticisms of the mini-budget was that there was no analysis from the government's independent forecasting body, the Office for Budget Responsibility, or the OBR. In its latest forecast, the IMF recommended that all major fiscal policy changes should be accompanied by the OBR forecasts. Earlier this month, official figures showed the UK government borrowing hit a higher than expected $25.6 billion in April, the second highest borrowing figure for the month since records began in 1993. The borrowing figure, which represents the difference between spending and tax income, was £11.9 billion more than for the same month last year, with inflation pushing up interest payments on debt partly to blame. How does the government borrowing work? The Office for National Statistics said interest payments on central government debt hit £9.8 billion in April. This was £3.1 billion more than a year earlier year and was the highest April figure since monthly records began in 1997. Inflation figures are due soon and are expected to show the rate falling below 10% for the first time since last July. With the IMF's new forecast put into place, will the UK economy avoid recession in 2023?